Welcome to Heaven's Law, where we explore the secrets of celestial beings, fallen spirits, and the eternal battle between heaven and the abyss. We believe we are masters of our own destiny. We read the headlines, we follow the rise and fall of nations, and we attribute the great tides of history to politics, economics, and human ambition. But what if we are only seeing the shadows on the cave wall? What if earthly kingdoms have celestial patrons, and our most defining conflicts are but a pale reflection of a war waged in the realms beyond our sight? Today, we pull back the veil on a hidden war to ask the question, who are the angel princes that rule over the nations? The answer, hidden in the whispers of a prophet, will change the way you see the world forever. Share your thoughts on this celestial battle in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the law that shapes our reality. It begins with a prayer, a desperate, soul-wrenching plea from a man in exile. The prophet Daniel, his heart heavy for his people, embarks on a 3-week fast. He abstains from pleasant food, from meat and wine, and anoints himself not with oil, but with the ashes of mourning. For 21 days, he kneels by the great river Tigris, his spirit wrestling with the silence of the heavens. He is seeking understanding, a glimpse into the divine tapestry of fate that governs the kingdoms of men. And for 21 days, heaven is silent. Was his prayer unheard? Was his devotion in vain? We, in our fragile mortality, have all felt that chilling silence, that void where we expect an answer. We have all wondered if our pleas simply dissipate into an uncaring cosmos. Daniel must have felt this weight, the crushing burden of a seemingly indifferent divinity. But on the 24th day of the first month, the silence did not just break, it shattered. As he lifted his eyes, he saw it, a figure, so terrifyingly glorious that the men beside him fled in a panic they could not comprehend, leaving Daniel alone to face the numinous. The being was clothed in linen, his waist girded with a belt of the finest gold. His body was like beryl, a flash of sea-green light, and his face held the fury of lightning. His eyes were lamps of fire, burning with an intensity that could scour the soul. His arms and legs shone like burnished bronze, and the sound of his words. The sound was like the roar of a multitude, a thunderous cascade that vibrated in Daniel's very bones. The prophet collapsed, his strength gone, his face pressed into the dust. This was no gentle cherubic messenger. This was a warrior, a being of immense power, forged in the fires of creation. A hand touched him, shaking him from his stupor, and the voice like a legion spoke. It told him that from the very first day he had set his heart to understand, his words were heard. From the first moment of his plea, this magnificent being was dispatched with the answer. Here, the mystery deepens. If the prayer was heard on day 1 and the messenger was sent on day 1, why the 21 days of agonizing silence? The answer is the revelation that forms the bedrock of our journey today. The celestial being, a creature whose very appearance could stop a mortal heart, was intercepted. He was withstood. He was locked in a battle so fierce it raged for the exact duration of Daniel's fast. For 21 days, a war was fought in an unseen realm, a war that held the fate of a prophet's prayer and perhaps the fate of his people in the balance. The prophet's spiritual discipline on earth was a mirror to a celestial conflict in the heavens. This was not a war against flesh and blood, but a struggle against a rival power, an entity the messenger named with a chillingly specific title, the Prince of the Kingdom of Persia. The Prince of the Kingdom of Persia. The title hangs in the air, heavy with dreadful implication. This was no human king, no mortal emperor of the Achaemenid Empire. The messenger was not delayed by Cyrus the Great or his armies. The entity that could single-handedly hold a being of lightning and fire at bay for 3 weeks was something else entirely. This was a spiritual power, a dark principality assigned to the most powerful empire on earth at the time. This revelation opens a terrifying vista. It suggests a spiritual hierarchy, a dark and twisted reflection of the earthly order. It implies that nations, cultures, and empires have unseen patrons, spiritual governors, who influence their destiny from beyond the veil. The Prince of Persia was the demonic entity, the fallen intelligence, tasked with overseeing the Persian Empire. His goal? To thwart the will of heaven, to corrupt the empire from within, and to work against the people of Daniel, the Israelites, who were living under Persian rule. He was the whisper in the king's ear, the shadow that fueled pride, the unseen hand that guided policy away from divine favor and towards oblivion. Imagine the nature of that conflict. It was not a clash of steel, but a war of will, of authority, of pure spiritual power. For 21 days, two beings of immense might wrestled at the spiritual border of an empire. The angelic messenger carried a revelation of hope and future for Daniel's people. The Prince of Persia, a sentinel of darkness, sought to block that revelation, to maintain his sphere of influence, to keep the nation under his thumb and God's people in a state of despair. He was the gatekeeper of a kingdom, and he would not let the light pass. This concept was not entirely alien to the ancient world. Many cultures believed in tutelary deities, national gods who fought for their chosen people. The Babylonians had Marduk, the Philistines had Dagon, the Greeks had Athena for Athens, and Ares for Sparta. But the Bible frames this idea in a far more sinister light. These are not rival gods in a pantheon. They are rebellious powers, jailers of humanity, members of a fallen host dedicated to opposing the Creator. They are princes, and their kingdoms are the nations of men. The sheer power of this Prince of Persia is staggering. A single angel, as described in Revelation, will one day bind Satan himself and cast him into the abyss. Yet this principality, this regional commander of the infernal armies, was able to resist a glorious angel for 3 full weeks. The battle was a stalemate, a deadlock of cosmic force. The messenger admits that he was stranded there, locked in this celestial impasse, until an even greater power intervened. He was not winning. He was trapped, alone, behind enemy lines in a war we never knew was being fought. The fate of Daniel's vision and the morale of his people hung by a thread in a battle between two immortal beings in the sky above Persia. The stalemate was broken by the arrival of a champion. The messenger himself reveals who came to his aid. Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. And with his arrival, the tide of the celestial battle turned. The Prince of Persia was finally overcome, and the messenger was freed to deliver his long-awaited prophecy to Daniel. Who is Michael? His name in Hebrew, Mikael, is a question. Who is like God? It is not a statement of identity, but a challenge, a battle cry hurled against the pride of the forces of darkness. It is the eternal retort to the original boast of Lucifer, who in his vanity sought to ascend to the throne of the Most High. Michael's very name is a declaration of war against this cosmic treason. Scripture does not speak of him often, but when it does, it is with a sense of ultimate authority and unparalleled martial power. He is not merely an angel. The messenger refers to him as one of the chief princes, and Daniel is later told that Michael is the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people. He is an archangel, a term that implies a commanding rank in the celestial hierarchy. But more than that, he is a designated guardian, a celestial protector specifically assigned to the people of Israel. While Persia had its dark prince, Israel had a great prince of light as its champion. This transforms our understanding of the unseen war. It is not just a chaotic struggle between angels and demons. There is an order to it, a divine strategy. Key nations, key peoples in the unfolding of divine history have guardians of immense power. Michael is heaven's general, the field commander for the most critical front in the spiritual war. His intervention was not a mere reinforcement, it was the arrival of the cavalry, the deployment of a weapon so powerful that the formidable Prince of Persia could no longer maintain his blockade. In the book of Jude, we see another glimpse of his authority. He is described as disputing with the devil himself over the body of Moses, not with a railing accusation, but with the simple, authoritative command, "The Lord rebuke you." He does not engage in a prideful squabble. He invokes the ultimate authority of God, demonstrating that his power comes not from himself, but from his perfect allegiance to the Creator. In the book of Revelation, it is Michael and his angels who wage the final decisive war in heaven, casting out the dragon, that ancient serpent, and all his hosts. Michael is the ultimate warrior prince. He is the answer to the suffocating power of the national principalities. Where the Prince of Persia represents corruption, control, and spiritual stagnation, Michael represents liberation, protection, and divine will. His arrival in Daniel's story is a profound statement that no matter how powerful the forces of darkness may seem, no matter how entrenched the spiritual wickedness in a nation may be, heaven has champions that are stronger still. The 21-day war was a testament to the enemy's strength, but its conclusion was a testament to Michael's overwhelming power and God's unwavering fidelity to his people. The messenger's revelation did not end with the Prince of Persia. After delivering his prophecy, he tells Daniel of the future of this hidden war. He says, "Soon I must return to fight against the Prince of Persia, and when I go, the Prince of Greece will come." This single chilling statement expands the battlefield from a single empire to the entire sweep of human history. The darkness was not defeated, it was merely pushed back. And another power was waiting in the wings, the Prince of Greece. As the Persian Empire would one day fall to the armies of Alexander the Great, so too would its dark spiritual patron be supplanted by another. A new demonic principality, aligned with the rising Hellenistic culture, was preparing to take its place. This suggests a terrifying parallel between the physical and spiritual realms. As earthly empires rise and fall, so too is there a changing of the guard in the infernal hierarchy that governs them. Each new world power brings with it a new spiritual oppression, a new prince with a new agenda to corrupt and control humanity. This aligns perfectly with the language used by the Apostle Paul centuries later. In his letter to the Ephesians, he urges believers to put on the full armor of God, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. He does not speak of a single enemy, but of a structured dominion, a hierarchy of malevolence. He uses words like archas, rulers, exousias, authorities, and cosmokrator, world rulers of this darkness. This is the language of an organized kingdom, a chain of command in a vast unseen army. What does this infernal structure look like? Could it be that every nation has a prince? That every region, every city, every cultural movement has a spiritual force assigned to it, working to twist it away from the divine pattern? The Prince of Persia might have fostered a culture of imperial pride and mystical legalism. The Prince of Greece, in turn, may have championed a seductive philosophy that deified human intellect and reason above all else, leading to a sophisticated yet godless worldview. Later, a Prince of Rome might have overseen a spiritual dominion built on brutal conquest and a state-enforced paganism that demanded worship of the emperor. These thrones and powers are not merely tempters of individual souls. They are architects of civilizations, weavers of ideologies. They work on a grand scale, influencing the philosophies, religions, and political systems that shape the lives of millions. They foster the spirit of the age, the prevailing attitudes and assumptions that a culture accepts as normal. They are the hidden source of the dehumanizing isms that have plagued history, the blind nationalism that leads to war, the materialistic greed that corrupts economies, the racial pride that justifies oppression. This is a war for the soul of humanity, fought not on a single battlefield, but across the entire globe and throughout all of time. The principalities are patient. They are masters of the long game, content to sow seeds of discord that will only bear their bitter fruit generations later. They are the puppet masters, and the kings and presidents and prime ministers of the world are often just the marionettes dancing on their strings, unaware of the forces that truly pull them. The struggle Daniel witnessed was but one campaign in a war that defines all of human history. The empires of Persia, Greece, and Rome have long since turned to dust. Their temples are ruins, their armies are memories. But has the war ended? Have the princes been recalled, or has the conflict simply changed its form, adapting its malevolent strategy for a new era? To believe this spiritual war was confined to the ancient world is to misunderstand its very nature. The principalities and powers did not vanish with the advent of science or the age of reason. They merely became more subtle. If there were princes over Persia and Greece, who are the princes of today? What unseen forces preside over the great nations and ideologies of the modern world? We see nations consumed by ideologies of atheistic materialism, others by the fire of religious fanaticism. We see cultures drowning in nihilistic despair and decadent pleasure-seeking, and others shackled by the iron fist of totalitarian control. Are these mere political or sociological phenomena? Or are they the fingerprints of the principalities, the signature work of the ancient powers who have mastered the art of shaping human thought? Consider the global-scale conflicts of the last century. The World Wars, the Cold War. These were more than just clashes of nations. They were brutal conflicts of ideology, battles for the very definition of humanity. Could these have been the physical manifestations of a war in the heavens, the clash of a prince of fascism against a prince of communism, with both ultimately serving the same dark master? These powers thrive on division, on hatred, on turning humanity against itself. They feed on our fear and our pride, and they use our own advancements, our media, our technology, our global interconnectedness as new weapons in their ancient war. The modern battlefield may be the human mind itself. The goal is no longer to simply influence a king or an emperor, but to capture the narrative, to control the flow of information, to shape the consensus reality of billions. The new princes may not be tied to a single geographical location, but to global movements, a prince of godless humanism, a prince of lawless anarchy, a prince of technological idolatry. Their aim is to create a world where humanity, in its arrogance, believes it has surpassed the need for God, all while being led into a sophisticated, comfortable, and spiritually sterile slavery. The revelation given to Daniel is, therefore, not just a piece of ancient history. It is a terrifyingly relevant warning. It is a call to look beyond the transient headlines and the political theater. It is an invitation to see the world as it truly is, a battleground between mighty spiritual forces for the destiny of nations and the souls of men. The silence we sometimes feel when we pray might not be silence at all, but the muffled sound of a distant, raging conflict. And the hope we have is the same hope Daniel had, that there is a champion, a great prince named Michael, and an ultimate king to whom all authority in heaven and on earth has been given, who will one day bring this hidden war to its final, triumphant end. Until that day, the war rages on, and we, whether we know it or not, are living in its midst.